The top stories in 2015 that you will see tonight. How can we not have a 2015-ish theme on our first real kind of working day back in 2015? Happy New Year. It is so good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in to My State of Mind. I am Dan York, and I am ready to plow through 2015. So is Ted Nesi. He's got predictions on the top stories that you will see in 2015. What? Ted Nesi? That's not what we tweeted out. Oh, well, we had our first faux pas with a state rep, brand new elected, booked in, but woke up this morning and was too tie-tie to come in tonight. Now, that, Sherry Roberts, is not a good way to start the year with Dan York's State of Mind. We won't reschedule her. Let us go to the rundown, unless she does something phenomenal. Sorry, Laura. It was a dumb decision by the new state rep to cancel the show, and it also was a dumb decision to do what they're doing in Boston, and it's not a funny matter. Let's talk about it. Midnight transition, yes, thank God we got a mayor at 12:01 this morning. Did you not know that? You're going to, tomorrow, if you're going to be out there for Gina Raimondo's inauguration, so bring your mittens and a couple extra layers. And that's the new minimum wage, in case you were scoring at home, and I'm looking forward to seeing what small business is doing. This broke my heart to lose this incredible broadcaster, and we certainly want to know what's on your mind in your state of mind, on my state of mind. To the rundown in depth we go now, and let's dig in. Dumb. Boston Globe headline, intense scrutiny of jurors starts today, and a little bit of CBS flavor on Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's first day out to see who might decide his fate.
Tsarnaev is accused of conspiring with his late brother to plant 2 bombs by the finish line that killed 3 people and left more than 260 others injured, many of them seriously. Last-minute legal appeals to delay or move the trial have failed, and now it begins. The first job, picking a jury. A pool of more than 1,000 people must be whittled down to 12 plus 6 alternates.
You know, the prosecutor and the defense team had negotiations on a plea bargain, and you know, it would have resulted in life in prison, throw away the key, goodbye. Instead, we're going to try the case. And I have to tell you, I think this is just dumb. The millions of dollars that it will take, the psychological damage that it does to the families and to the city of Boston, it's just not worth it. You know why? We're not going to get a death penalty. The jury, if you can find a real jury, and that's questionable, the jury will decide whether he's guilty or not, and that's a no-brainer. Of course he is. And then the jury will not send him to the death penalty, because it's just going to come out that his brother was too tough on him and all sorts of mitigating circumstances, and that's the way it's going to end. This one is a no-brainer, and I hope the feds actually take a look at it and say, you know what, let's revisit this. Who wins with a full trial? Nobody. Move on. Midnight transition, yes. Did you know that Jorge Elorza became the mayor at 12:01 a.m.? That is a very strange tradition. He took the oath of office in his home at 12:01 a.m. Thank God we had a mayor at 6:40 this morning. I would have been very worried about that. Anyway, a little glimpse of his inaugural speech on the City Hall steps today.
Exactly 4 decades after my family arrived in this country in 1975 with little more than the shirts on their backs, we stand here proudly as a family on the steps of City Hall as an example of what dedication, sacrifice, humility, and industry can help us achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, the American dream is still alive, and it is our responsibility to see to it that it endures for generations and for families to come.
This guy's a very nice guy, and I'm hoping that he's a success in Providence. He's going to have a lot of work to do, and I hope we have a continuous relationship with him, both here on State of Mind and on the radio on WPRO, weekdays noon to 3. But he is a windbag. I mean, he goes on and on. He thinks he just got elected to the presidency. Some of the rhetoric was very colorful and beautiful, but he just goes on and on. And this has been happening all through the campaign and even on election night. Someone better tell him, hey, Jorge, keep it simple, stupid, or sometimes less is more, or some other kind of cliche like that. They forgot the Bible. They had to run upstairs to get the Bible. That was a little bit of a mishap in the inaugural today. And what else happened? Oh, they had a rapper. Yeah, I knew I'd get old enough someday to say, how can they have a rapper? But anyway, we wish him the best of luck. Oh, by the way, he bought the P back. Yeah, the P's back in Providence. What's the P? You know, David Cicilline's P that he went out of town to spend all the ad money on to get the P that he'll tell you about it at length. Let's move on. Extra layers tomorrow. Gina Raimondo's inauguration is tomorrow. Headline, she's risen. We have, boy, I'll tell you, we're close to canonizing Gina Raimondo, and she's not even in office yet. But, you know, she's staying with the theme of middle-class jobs. She talked to Mike Montecalvo during the holiday season.
I have said over and over again, the only way to fix Rhode Island is to create good middle-class jobs. We can't cut our way out of this. We've been managing decline for 20 years, cutting, short-sighted. There's only one solution to fix this crisis: creating good middle-class, steady jobs.
Yeah, you know what? It was interesting. The Journal had an editorial on January 1st. If we can pop that up, Laura. You know, new year for Rhode Island, and it's all about Gina Raimondo and her assets and her skills and her talent and her abilities and all of that, which is fine. And at the end, look at this. The new governor, working with the General Assembly, will have to shift the political culture towards serving the common good, with a particular focus on revitalizing the economy. That will be no easy task. You know, I talked about that on the radio today. So the common good is not a goal for our General Assembly? So Gina Raimondo is going to have to instruct them on the difference between right and wrong in actually operating in all of our best interests? That's hard. That's a big job. She shouldn't have to do it. They should be doing it. And you should be forcing them to do it. Next item. Speaking of jobs, a whole bunch of people just got a raise to $9 an hour effective January 1st. Yes, WPRI.com reminds you that that happened, or that's the hope from lawmakers. Little ditty on this from the TV side.
Once the ball dropped and time ticked into 2015, Rhode Island tacked on another dollar to the minimum wage.
We have a great staff in the Senate.
Rhode Island Senator Erin Lynch was one of the sponsors of the bill. We met with her in her office to find out what the $9 an hour wage means for the everyday Rhode Islander.
We're not looking to make, somebody go from being at poverty level, to being at CEO level. We're just trying to give people a fighting chance, so to speak.
Rhode Island joins 20 other states in increasing their wages just this year. Now more than half of all states in the U.S. surpassed the federal minimum of $7.25 an hour.
A fighting chance to do what, Representative Lynch? Don't tell me to raise families, because I don't care what you put the minimum wage at. You can't raise a family on it, nor should you think about raising a family on it. I'll be interested to hear from small businesses over the course of 2015 as to how they're dealing with the new budget increase and how many folks who make minimum wage lose their jobs because of this increase. We'll see. And very sadly, Stuart Scott passed away from ESPN. He was one of those guys that I never got tired of watching. A really nice tribute here. I got nothing to add to that, other than I know how much I'll miss him, just as a fan. Godspeed. Your state of mind, important to us. 228-1886 is the number. State of mind at myritv.com. I'm going to start throwing, for the new year, I'm going to start throwing my radio emails into this, since so many of you send me emails on the radio instead of state of mind at myritv.com. Here's a voicemail.
Bill West, the true American, a legend in his own time. I can't wait to buy the book, and thank you, fans, for bringing him on. Fascinating. Happy New Year.
That was Phil West, and his book, Secrets and Scandals, is a smash hit he was on during the holidays. When we come back, 2015, the stories that Ted Nesi says you'll have to see. Oh, I can't even start with it. Ted Nesi is here. Happy New Year, kiddo.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for all that. WPRI.com, the stories you're going to be talking about in 2015. Lay 'em on me, baby. What do you think? We got a new governor?
Luckily, you have my list with me, so I'm
Yes.
going to have to follow along the cheat
This is what
sheet
you
here.
wrote.
Yeah. What did I say?
Yeah, we got a new governor.
So the new governor, obviously, we weren't trying to necessarily reinvent the wheel here. Some of these aren't going to surprise the folks at home. New governor, Gina Raimondo, we're taping this Monday, so she's taking office tomorrow. I think, we all know the first 6 months to a year of a new governor does a lot about setting the tone. Do people see them as effective? Is the legislature feel a little political pressure to get along, or do they feel like they can go their own way? I mean, Link Chafee in some ways had lost the plot. Maybe you could argue 3 months into his term by the time that sales tax thing went and died and Gordon Fox killed it one night in a press release. I mean, it was almost downhill from there. It never went uphill after that. So I think how she handles these early days is very important.
I think the speech tomorrow will be very important. Yes?
I think so. I usually downgrade the importance of a speech only because I wonder how many people care and notice. I think a bad speech followed by some really effective policies.
I'm going to be watching to see what she says in terms of specifics, and I'm starting to worry a little bit. She told Steve Klampkin at WPRO during the holidays that she's very concerned about the crushing deficit.
Yeah.
Did you hear a lot about the crushing deficit during the campaign, by the way?
No.
I know
I
you
asked.
asked about it. You asked about it over and over and over again. But no one talked about it being crushing.
I think if we're honest, I think we know probably almost exactly why why we had that, because the things you're going to have to do often to fix a deficit in Rhode Island are not popular with Democrats, and it's going to be a challenge for her to convince a lot of the more liberal Democrats to scale back things on social services, to do some tough cuts on eligibility and things, and and that wasn't the way you were going to win a Democratic primary.
Rhode Island's slow recovery, you say?
Yeah, I think I see some evidence that it's getting a little better. I think we've seen, some more job growth this year. I think the lower oil prices, unless they catapult the world into a recession, are very good for Rhode Island. It benefits people here. We're such an importer. But I think the question is, can Rhode Island get liftoff? Are we just, we'll always be dragged along by the national economy on some level, but can we actually get some and get people feeling good? Like, wow, I see the now hiring signs. My cousin who was out of work for a long time got a job.
What are the businesses? I mean, you're through Executive Suite. You're a very important show on channels 12 and 64. You get to talk to a lot of business people. What do you think the pulse is?
They're more optimistic than they were earlier in the show. They're cautious. They have their concerns, as I suppose they always will, about state government. They have things they want Gina Raimondo to do and the state lawmakers. But generally, they're feeling better about their books of business looking into 2015. They feel like you're not hearing people get worried that, business is going to fall off a cliff in this new year in any way, which is what you want to hear.
Story number 3, Mayor Lorza.
Very similar to the governor. How does he set the terms of the debate? How does he do? Angel Taveras, Dan McGowan found quietly increased his estimate of the size of the city deficit this last week before he took office. It's now $10 million. He was only saying $7 million a week or two ago. So, what's he going to inherit there? And how do you fix it when Angel Taveras already took so many of the things you try to do off the table in the last couple of years on pensions, on getting money out of the nonprofits and everything?
He makes long speeches.
He does. He's a professor.
Long speeches. Shorten it up, Jorge.
Well, I always say to people, don't forget, and it's nothing against the mayor-elect, or the mayor, now we can call him, but he was losing until 2 or 3 weeks before that primary when Brett Smiley dropped out. So this wasn't necessarily, he wasn't exactly going gangbusters to the nomination the way Angel Taveras was in August of 2010.
It's interesting the role Mr. Smiley plays in that organization.
Very interesting.
What's he called? The chief?
I think it's director of administration.
No, it was something different. It was new. It was a brand new
title. Chief operating officer?
Chief operating officer. Okay.
Which is, I think,
thought the mayor was the mayor. Gordon Fox, what up, yo?
We're waiting.
I'm not losing any sleep over it. I mean, he's out of office, but we do need a resolve.
Yeah, I think people want to know, what was this, we're looking at the video again here, what was this about nearly a year ago? Upended, the legislative politics of Rhode Island, and, what do they think, presumably Gordon Fox did, someone did, which involved Gordon Fox, because they haven't even identified him as the target. I think I'd be shocked if we got through a lot of this year without them saying something, the investigators, about what they were doing there. But then again, they aren't necessarily telling me what they're about to do.
But I think you go to a point. I think they've got a responsibility to do so. You don't raid, whether you liked Gordon Fox or not, whether you thought he was clean as a whistle or not. Doesn't matter. You don't raid the State House in broad daylight, literally force the resignation of the most powerful person in the state of Rhode Island's government, some say, and not report out what you were doing.
Not to mention, Dan, I think it's a great point. And I think I also wonder if there could be blowback if people decide, if there are charges. Again, I don't want to get ahead of what we know, but if there were charges and they seem kind of small, small time, not that that's okay, but people say, boy, that was a pretty dramatic way to take him out if he, fiddled $10,000 here and there with his campaign finances with no one else involved, where I think some people thought this was a sting or something. We're taking out 3, 4, 5, 6 people, more legislators going down. There's no sign of that.
Well, there was something. Sting, power play, scare tactic. Hopefully we find out. Yeah. And there are more stories in 2015 that Ted says you have to know about. Alrighty, so you got to go to WPR.com and read Ted Nesi's column every week, certainly the Saturday morning one, but we're talking about the top stories to look for in 2015.
A collaboration with Dan McGowan, I should say. He worked hard on this too.
I-195 land.
We're going to build anything, what's going to happen? I mean, Dan and I, was actually one of the ones Dan worked on, we should see some cranes in the sky this year. They're starting to make some deals, but the way this was pitched to people as a transformative bit of land that people are we're going to see some big things happening. Well, at some point people are going to want to see those big things actually happen. And so, this will be a good year to see, as well as the fact that Gina Raimondo has talked about changing that. You have a new mayor as well.
The state pension trial you talk about, this should go to full trial in my humble judgment so that we can establish whether the legislature has the right to do what they did. You think it'll fold up in some kind of settlement?
I'm not sure it will. I don't see how you're going to... Gina Raimondo has not signaled she's willing to budge on the terms of that original settlement that came out and was rejected last year. If she won't budge, how are they going to make the case to bring it back unless they try to get it approved by the others who already approved it, quasi-approved it? But right now it looks to me like they'll probably still end up on trial, but I could be wrong.
You point out something that is on my agenda for this week on radio and TV, and that is Deborah Gist and whether or not they're going to sign her up. She's got a 6-month warning time, and they've passed it by.
Yep.
I would imagine this week or next, this new governor is going to have to signal whether Deborah Gist stays or goes.
I think pretty soon, yeah. Again, this is a McGowan expertise on education, but from talking to him and what I'm hearing, I haven't gotten a clear signal she's definitely out. You hear a lot of people already writing Gist's obituary, but Gina Raimondo may want someone who's less polarizing, who maybe this will be an olive branch to the teachers unions for her.
You're right to use the term polarizing because everyone uses it. And if you keep saying it often enough, it becomes true. I don't find her polarizing. She's a change agent. What change agent's not polarizing against the status quo?
She has stakeholders who are mad, the teachers. And,
Well, they're always going to be mad. There's not a thing that will be done to change the state of education at all, anywhere, that doesn't make some stakeholders mad. And so, but did Gina make a deal? Did she make a deal for the unions to give their the teacher unions to give their tacit support at the end? Did she make a deal? It'll be very interesting to see. And if she did, and she doesn't pop Gist, they'll go nuts.
Now, the flip side I'd give you is Gist would actually, in some ways, that would be that could be a smart move for Gina Raimondo on policy, because you could get rid of Deborah Gist and bring in someone with the same policy principles as her and tell the unions, got rid of Deborah Gist just like you wanted, and bring in some ed reform type from somewhere else.
That would be cold. That would suggest that this Gina Raimondo is a mercenary.
Maybe we'll find out.
We'll find out. You say the trials of Zolkar Tsarnaev and Aaron Hernandez will be very, obviously the Hernandez thing, everyone will continue to watch it. I wish they would just plead this
yeah, why? I'm interested.
Well, because they're not going to convict on a death penalty. They'll convict, he's guilty as sin, and they won't send him to his death. And so there'll be millions of dollars and expense and my gosh, and the psychological, going through the whole thing and all the witnesses. Listen, we know, and the terrorist flame up and all. Just let it go.
Yeah.
I think most people are past it. I couldn't ring a phone on it today on the radio.
Well, I think it doesn't seem mysterious to people. I think most people are convinced it was him and his brother. They're not confused. And so,
right.
And a trial will decide whether a jury agrees. But I think most people at home, aren't.
You're still writing about 38 studios.
We got this lawsuit. It's been going on forever. Are they going to bring more settlements with the people involved? Are they going to actually go to trial? We don't even have a trial date on that thing, and that's been more than 2 years in the making. Then we have these lobbying violations. You see Mike Corso there with Tim White, Nellie Gorbea, new Secretary of State. Maybe she'll want to clean up that process. It was such a mess for the last 6 months. And then another vote on whether to pay the bonds.
I'd like to see a couple of people go to jail. That would be a whole nother kind of trial.
That would be interesting.
There's more stuff, but I'm out of time. 2015 is a fast year.
It's gonna be fast. Thanks, Dan.
I'll be right back. I had something else to say, but Jess yelled at me during the break and said I was too hard on new rep Sherry Roberts. All right, you can come. Is that better?
Yeah, it's 15 seconds to say what you want to say.
All right, well, I was really sorry. I was so hard on you. Don't be calling at noon saying I don't feel like coming in. Happy New Year. Gotta go.